When I first realized my mother-in-law preferred the house quiet when my wife wasn't around, I misunderstood it completely. I thought it was about me. I assumed it was awkwardness or discomfort, the kind that grows between in-laws who don't quite know where they stand with each other. At the time, my wife, Emily, was working long hospital shifts, sometimes gone from dawn until well after dark. Those evenings left just the two of us in the house, moving carefully around one another like strangers, sharing a space neither fully owned. Her name was Margaret, and she had moved in with us temporarily after a minor surgery left her unable to manage on her own. Emily insisted it would only be for a few weeks. A few weeks turned into months, not because Margaret needed help anymore, but because life has a way of stretching temporary arrangements into something permanent before you realize it's happened. When Emily was home, the house felt busy and loud. Conversations overlapped. Emotions bounced around unchecked. Emily loved deeply but intensely, and her relationship with her mother carried years of unresolved tension. Small disagreements turned into sharp words, and silence followed like a storm cloud. I often found myself caught in the middle, unsure whether to speak or stay invisible. But when Emily wasn't home, everything changed. The house became softer somehow. Margaret moved slower, talked quieter, and smiled more. She'd ask if I wanted tea and actually wait for my answer. She told stories then, not the polished ones she shared at family gatherings, but real ones. Stories about raising Emily alone after her husband passed, about mistakes she still carried, about love that didn't always look the way it was supposed to. One evening, as rain tapped against the windows, she said something that stuck with me. She told me she liked when Emily wasn't home because it reminded her that her daughter had grown up, built a life, and no longer needed her hovering every second. She said the quiet helped her accept that. I hadn't expected that honesty. Over time, our conversations became a routine. Not deep every night, but comfortable. We talked about books, about the neighborhood, about the strange way time feels heavier as you get older. There was nothing secretive or wrong about it, just two people learning how to coexist without tension. I realized then that Margaret didn't dislike Emily's presence. She struggled with it. Being around her daughter reminded her of regrets she never addressed and fears she never named. When Emily was gone, Margaret could breathe without feeling like she was failing as a mother all over again. The night everything truly shifted was unremarkable on the surface. Emily was working late again. Margaret and I were in the kitchen, quietly cleaning up after dinner. She stopped suddenly and said she needed to apologize. I didn't know what for, but I listened. She told me she'd been afraid of me when we first met. Afraid that I'd take Emily further away from her. Afraid that she'd become unnecessary. She admitted that fear made her cold and defensive. She said she was grateful now, not because Emily wasn't home, but because I was. That gratitude caught me off guard. I understood then that what Margaret liked wasn't my wife being gone. It was the absence of conflict. It was the chance to connect without emotional history getting in the way. And somehow, without trying to, I had become a bridge between her past and her present. When Emily eventually noticed the change, she didn't react the way I expected. She didn't accuse or withdraw. Instead, she watched quietly as her mother laughed more, relaxed more, and spoke with less bitterness. One night, she asked me what had changed. I told her the truth. Emily cried when she realized her mother wasn't pushing her away. She was stepping back because she didn't know how to stand beside her without hurting them both. That conversation was the beginning of something healing, not just for them, but for all of us. Margaret moved out a few months later, not because she had to, but because she was ready. The house felt different after she left, warmer somehow. Emily and her mother spoke more honestly after that. Their relationship wasn't perfect, but it was real. Looking back, I understand now why my mother-in-law liked it when my wife wasn't home. It gave her space to reflect, to soften, and to rebuild connections without old wounds reopening. It wasn't about exclusion or preference. It was about healing in the quiet moments no one else notices. Sometimes love doesn't arrive loudly. Sometimes it shows up in the form of patience, understanding, and the courage to sit with someone in silence. And sometimes, what sounds like a troubling truth turns out to be the beginning of something unexpectedly beautiful.